And the thing that I need to track the most here is Cloud9 on red side. They feel like their pick and ban, especially in this World Championship, is almost weaker on red side in comparison to their blue side than it has been in a really long time. The fact that Alliance now has the freedom to ban out the Syndra and the Rumble really puts a dent into Cloud9's overall strategy. I'm actually very surprised right now that the Zilean and the Maokai are both kind of going through. The last ban for Cloud9 probably has to be Alistar.
The top lane has usually been getting the last ban, figuring out how to knock them down just a little bit. If they get the Rumble, it's been focused, so that's out of there right away. Balls will not have a chance to play that because of his beautiful record on that champion. Maokai from Alliance, now Cloud9 to answer.
And Maokai has been something we've been curious about the blue team banning, and they're letting Alistar through.
Wow.
All right, there's a few things to say about this.
Call me a liar.
It's surprising, but Cloud9 definitely does their research. They kind of trade the Alistar pick for the Zilean as one, and two, Wicked did not have a good showing on Alistar in the European playoffs. He had some very lackluster games. Balls is a talented Mundo player who can split lanes with Alistar, but yeah, when we see Alistar go through, he's usually a force.
I'd agree with you in saying that Wicked wasn't exactly a superstar Alistar player that we saw from him. However, he does have a 100% record with Alistar.
They still won the games.
4-0, yeah, exactly. And whilst his individual performance may have been needing some touch-ups, you know, he's put a lot of work in. We were talking to Alliance and they said, Wicked has really stepped it up this time, you know. After his performance where he openly said himself, I played terribly at playoffs. I need to step up for Worlds. And he's done that if you look at the hours he's put in practice. The question is, can he deliver in a big game like this? Looks now for Alliance, and I'm interested to see what comes out in the jungle because Kha'Zix has been banned.
Are they going to do it?
Been banned. He's going to pick Rammus.
All right.
Wow.
Awesome.
Did it.
So, I should have pointed this out earlier, but I pointed out in the first Alliance versus Cloud9 game. Cloud9 targeted Shook with bans. They took away his Lee Sin and Kha'Zix, and I said he may break out Rammus if his two main junglers are banned. In the first game, he picked Elise, did 3% of his team's damage, did not complete a big item, and had a horrible game. Rammus is his most played champion in Korean solo queue by a wide margin. 30 games, the next closest is 10. He goes Sightstone and Spirit of the Ancient Golem with Moby Boots home guards and ganks straight through the lanes.
Just had a call from Season 1 and they want their lineup back. Alliance going with a pretty old school set of champions here. Of course now back in the, I don't know if we can say it, Rammus specifically is, you know, back in favor. Certainly for Shook he is, and he's been one of the junglers that has changed things around this year. Played a load of Riven mid-season in the summer split. Yeah. For Cloud9 though, let's focus on theirs because they got the Zilean Lucian from the first two picks. They take Ryze and Jarvan for their third and fourth.
Very interesting lock-ins. We can see why the Syndra and whatnot going out. Shook wanting an easy path. Also doesn't want to ride an equalizer right into the fight. But Video says if that's going to happen, I want to single you out with the Cataclysm. So the Jarvan gets bucked up for him. Not something very played by him, and actually not during the regular season at all.
And there's also not much sadder than a Rammus going about 500 miles an hour, getting stopped by Rune Prison.
Yep, that
Ryze
Ryze
and then
too.
Get a bunch of damage jumped down on.
Get slowed by Zilean if you even get out of it.
He's going to have to be really creative with the way he initiates here.
Well, if there's enough chaos from a Froggen on Ahri, maybe that's the case.
If they really wanted to go old school, Anivia Corki. Why would they pick Corki? We've already got Cogmore in there.
I mean, at least they can go
Irelia
Irelia.
certainly fits that mold. And we're going to be seeing Froggen on Ahri. So we said this yesterday when they played Najin White Shield that we want to see Froggen on a champion that he can come up massive in games. Ahri could be that champion for him.
He had some really impressive games on Ahri in the European playoffs. He actually did a very strange Ahri build where he rushed cooldown boots and then a Fiendish Kodak and was basically using it to get off the quickest roam ganks possible and just increase the frequency. But you can only do that if you have absolute command over the mid lane. So it will depend on what High takes and whether it can provide a lot of pressure. What? They would.
You could Dark Binding Rammus as well on the way in.
They switched this up on us in the last second. I was thinking they had not picked their mid lane yet. And they end up going with Morg. I was just penciling that in as a support Zilean because I haven't seen High play it much. That's going to be very difficult for Froggen to roam on once Zilean gets a few points in his time box.
Well, we were wondering how these games were going to play out. The first one between these two, quite slow. Would anybody bring out aggression? And I don't think there's a way to go slow when you pick Rammus.
Well, Zilean can certainly slow you down.
This is true.
Morgana's going to stop you chasing into the team. Ryze has got the similar thing. Even Jarvan has to go a little bit more aggressive to knock you up and stop you getting in there. We also saw, by the way, of course, Nif getting his hands on Alistar. And we said that Nif's game yesterday on Zilean wasn't the best showing that we've had from Nif. And Alistar's a champion where you've really got to be on your game.
Yeah, there was a lot of fake outs from me. I don't know if Cloud9 and the Lions actually got faked out, but I was a little bit tunneled on the Alistar top lane and the Zilean on support because that's what we'd seen most of from these teams. But now I'm excited for the difference picks we saw here.
Well, I mean, that last game is definitely a difficult one to follow, the Fnatic versus OMG encounter, but we'll see if these two teams can match it. And as the players load in, who do you guys think holds the edge in this match? Tweet at LOL eSports using the hashtag ALLWin or C9Win, and we'll check out your votes during the game. For me, tough one to call, just based off past experience that we've seen so far at Worlds. I got to give the edge to Cloud9, but we're going to find out as we get into game.
And past experience that we haven't seen. Let's see if Shook can write the book here on how to be Rammus at Worlds. He'll be locking this one in, and he'll be rolling around the rift trying to create opportunities for the team. How will Cloud9 get in on this? Does the warding change kind of when you're playing against a Rammus?
I think so.
Warding deeper, you have to be safe.
I think you have to ward a Rammus once he gets his mobility boots, more like you would ward a Rengar, because he's going to be coming straight up the lane, most likely, instead of through the river. Also, Rammus is so popular in solo queue, oftentimes because he can go through wards and you still don't have the time to react. He's so fast once he gets those mobility boots with his power ball that even if he goes through a ward, you may not be able to retreat in time. A lot of that will have to do with his lane follow-up as well, with which Alliance has built a lot. You can see Wicked in the top lane on Aurelia has been maxing his Equilibrium strike. You chain a stun as Rammus flies through ward, he will make it to you. Or in the bottom lane with Nip on Alistar. Same thing with the Headbutt Pulverize. Some very hard ganks to stop.
We saw Meteos getting calibrated a bit there. Flag toss a bit short. Next one should be good. Like we said, Jarvan really wasn't his forte throughout the season, so we get warmed up a little bit here in the beginning. Everybody giving each other quite a bit of respect to start this off, and the line of scrimmage is the river.
Already wards down in that bottom lane, though, and Cloud9 got themselves inside the brush. So we'll see what they actually go for you, whether they're just going to hang around inside of that top side and hope that Alliance move in there. Of course, the Pulverize can be a bit of a problem in these early stages, but Dark Binding may be a good counter to that one, as Meteos here will be starting off by the blue, and Rammus for Shook. First time that we're going to be seeing Rammus coming out. That will be starting off down by the red buff.
Nif starts out with heal, so he almost immediately loses his lane presence. He actually used it to try and shove the lane with Trample a little bit while not taking too much harass. But as far as retaliating that Dark Binding, Alliance doesn't have any threat right there. I also like the fact that Lemonation picked Morgan to Alistar because Dark Binding can block a lot of his all-ins. It's an old pick for Lemonation. He's played it a ton in...
He's got good aim, though.
He's got fantastic aim. He's really good at champions that require a little bit more setup and mental game because he's a very good predictor of things.
And also, all those picks we were talking about is going to give Shook hell if he tries to initiate with the amount that he can be locked down. It'll be very interesting to see how he works around that. Froggen making sure Meteos doesn't make an early visit towards mid. Shook starts off on his blue.
Rammus is actually a little bit vulnerable to early counter jungling. So Shook's start, he must feel relatively fortunate here to not be disrupted in any of his jungle paths. And a lot of people don't pick Rammus in competitive play because if he falls the slightest bit behind, he starts feeling really useless. Watching his first few ganks could very well decide this game.
Oh, good charm there from Froggen onto Ice. Going to give him quite the chunk of damage to put down. Did take a bomb for his pleasure, but that mid lane is somewhere that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Wicked also was chunked down earlier on, and again, Ball's going to go quite aggressive onto him, using a lot of mana early on. Looks like we're going to be seeing the first gank coming in as well from Meteos, and of course I curse that as he walks straight back into his jungle.
Yeah, hatching that ward right above the Wraiths and seeing Balls, like you said, on something that he can be aggressive. He's been put on Shen in the past and things he has to play safe, and he's been vocal. He does not like that. He likes to be able to fight with the team or even control his lane by himself. More action to the bottom. Nif catching all the bindings. Good hands. Good hands.
So there was an old strategy in around Season 2 where Alistar would actually max heal in lane. COG used to run it with Vayne often, and they would just use Alistar to take hits while Vayne CS'd. Nif has yet to choose which skill he maxes, but he's definitely taking a lot of hits and trying to rely on that heal for sustain. It's a sneaky amount of sustain if you put many points into the heal. We'll have to track that since they are at a bit of a disadvantage against Black Shield in that lane.
ETS is actually coming through the lane towards that top side of the map as well. Maybe trying to get some early camping onto Wicked. See how that one all works out for him. There's another binding lands there onto Nif. That tormented soil getting a couple of ticks off as well. So elimination so far been pretty much on the mark. That would obviously happen, as I say it, with these dark binding names is what I wanted to say as one wildly misses and goes through the brush. But could also argue that he was maybe having a look to see if Shook was in there.
Very well could have. I mean, Rammus, we've yet to see that Rammus gank. He is going with a more conservative Rammus style, actually. An early Quill Coat instead of trying to get Boots mobility right away, but the Boots are on the way. I feel like that'll be his next buy.
Kind of rushing towards each one of his camps, probably, as you say, to get those boots, and we'll see what kind of effect he can put in the game. Meteos, we just saw him up top a little bit ago, paying consideration to Wicked on his Aurelia. It can and will wreak havoc if he gets a good laning phase. As you were saying before, Joe, Wicked also stepping up for the team, and when it goes well, the team also starts to play well around him. So if they can get that going, thumbs up for Alliance.
And they need it. They need Wicked to go big. They need Froggen to go big. I mean, Shook's playing Rammus in pretty much the game that decides if you go any further in Worlds.
I really want to see the effectiveness of that Rammus as well. Looking at all the things that Cloud9 has picked here, I mean, even just a Black Shield on whoever he powerballs into will deny the taunt. So he's going to have to be really creative. Hopefully he can just get farmed. Rammus has some of the best health scaling in the game in the sense because if he puts his defensive powerball, it gives him so much armor and magic resist, his effective health goes absolutely crazy. But that takes, once again, a lot of farm. And I don't know if Alliance has that kind of time.
Well, they'll have some time. Seeing the tears on the side of Cloud9, it gives them a bit to work with. Not a lot of damage is going to be coming out just yet. Meteos again. Consideration towards the top lane, and Wicked, he's not liking the situation. He's going to go ahead and hug turret because he's got a real nice push on this wave.
And this is kind of an old version of how to beat CLGEU, you know? Camp that top lane, catch Wicked out of position while he's playing his Aurelia. That's what teams did to try and take down the old CLG team, and honestly, why not? I mean, it worked back then. I feel that Wicked, you know, he's going to be ready for something like that. He's playing this one very safe as Froggen just flashes a charm by height. And again, gets the bomb back on his head.
Definitely seen out there. They have the idea of where Froggen is. That means Wicked now goes aggressive. Before he was playing completely passive, but that instance of knowing where Meteos was, he wants some damage.
Really good damage too. It's the Sheen Rush for Wicked. It's something he's been relying on. He gets such good damage trading with his Equilibrium Strike plus the Sheen proc from his auto attack just to burst him down, and Rise is a very vulnerable little guy up there early on in the game.
Well, we've yet to see Rammus come rolling out of the jungle, and he's going home again. 37 CS he's got.
He farmed really well.
Farming,
six,
a lot of farming in there, and will come back in with those boots of mobility. So this is where he can really get going.
He kind of pulled the Meteos on Meteos there, where instead of trying to pull ganks early, he just did a bunch of farming while he relied on his lanes not to die to ganks, and then outpaced the enemy jungler. He did hit level 6 first. He has more CS. He's got his boots of mobility first, whereas Meteos is still clearing jungle.
What's his focus? Every lane can supplement this crowd control that he brings as well. Stuns from all, charm in the middle. Looks like he'll go back for blue to make sure he can get power balls off more. Actually, he's going to give this one up to Froggen, as usual. Didn't think Froggen was going to have time to step aside. He has time for everything. Wave pushed up in this bottom lane, looking for these guys to hit 6 as Sneaky's done that first. And it looks like they're going to pay Balls some attention here as he hatches that one. Just sitting on a ward.
I'm a little concerned here why Shook is trying to gank through the river when Rammus ganks so amazingly through the lanes. Bit of wasted time there for old Rammus.
wanted to reply with just okay, but I feel like we could get a forecaster in here just to provide that for us.
The Rammus commentary.
An okay every now and then will certainly add to the atmosphere. Shook actually on top of a pink ward there. We'll put a pink down of his own and spots that one that's actually been down for quite a few minutes. And Shook is going to be getting some clearage going on. So, where's he going to be able to get involved in the game? Because it's all well and good farming up. If, you know, you need to make impacts here. You need to be able to get in there, get your lanes going. I suppose you could argue that while Meteos is farming as well, Shook could technically just keep playing that game.
Oh, Transcendent Blades onto Balls in the top lane. Wicked with the level advantage and the CS advantage here, playing it very nicely. I don't know if we're going to see more pressure. Shook's kind of, he doesn't know where he wants to go right now. He's kind of just hovering.
He still wants to punish that top lane. Something that happened in Cloud9's first game against Alliance is they allowed the Aurelia through. Now Alliance is going to try and punish. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Ball's actually meant to put down the stun on towards Wicked there. Shook comes rolling on through. First gank results in a first blood, but Shook might be in a little bit of trouble. Going to be chased here by Meteos. High is actually coming around as well. Going to get the speed up. There is the bomb coming down. I think that's enough. Yeah, the auto attack will help, and High is going to take down Shook.
I have to say, Balls did not play that gank properly. You would want to Rune Prison the Rammus and then run away from the Aurelia, but they were pretty close together. And then they also killed him not even near the turret, but at least he prompted the overdrive. He knew he had the collapse coming back up, so he is behind Wicked's Aurelia, which is really scary, but at least he gave High a kill, so it's kind of a trade.
A little bit of back and forth, but Wicked to that Triforce faster, a very scary thing. He is not afraid to put his foot down and start making plays for the team. See what kind of advantage can be grabbed here in the bottom lane. So far, it is a 20 CS lead in favor of Sneaky. Shook charging up here.
Zoom.
Looks like he could zoom. That's going to be a face-to-face hit-up. Wow, Meteos in the back pocket of High here. Gets the Zillion ult down. The Ignite will not tick fully, so he's not going to come back stronger. Might have given them a chance to re-engage, but they back off for this one. Summoner's blown in the mid lane.
And actually Shook there going for Home Guard, so he's going to be coming out of base with roughly 4,500 move speed.
That is the rough estimate of his move speed. It's also the common build you see on Jungle Rammus. It's very much solo queue, but it's also the most effective way of building Rammus. We'll see how quickly he goes back. Generally, you just burn a bunch of health and mana and you don't clear the jungle too optimally, but that doesn't matter because you get back to lane in an instant with Home Guard power play.
And it creates such a dynamic, too, that Cloud9 has to think about. The window for jungle ganks usually slows down after you get a gank, but he is going to be back every time, and something they can be caught off guard with. Not caught off guard on the first dragon. That goes over to Cloud9. 12 minutes on the clock.
And that was basically just Balls going bottom lane instead of back to the top lane. It will hurt him in the short term, and I think the main threat for Cloud9 here is if Wicked can run over Balls in that top lane, because based on the team comp here, Cloud9 needs that mid-game power spike, and therefore they need Balls to actually get to his Rod of Ages pretty quickly. And if Wicked is able to overcome that with a more powerful Aurelia that can then roam down and start taking over the game, it will throw a pretty big wrench into Cloud9's plans.
Good roam from Nif here. Helping Shook get in some wards. What's the Death Squad looking for the top lane? They considered, let's get Balls again while he's up here. Wait a minute. Balls isn't in his top lane. 4 people to the top side here. Maybe they'll get a turret out of this one. Wicked's been freezing it the whole time, so they think Balls is standing on his turret.
Yeah, they're prepping for a dive. Instead, they're going to get a turret, and it's actually a turret trade. It's almost like an early game lane swap, except it's happening in 13 minutes.
Yeah, and they lost the dragon just before that, which I suppose is very much Alliance style. You know, we're not comfortable enough to challenge for the dragon, give it away rather than rather than losing a few kills as well. They do get that top turret back, but leaves them 1,000 gold behind. The Shook is gonna find Balls here. Let's see if Balls can actually get away. Nif moving in, the bombs start to come down. Charm will land onto Balls, but they've not got enough damage to finish.
Yeah, nice defensive showing there by High to just prevent the all-in, since it would have been chrono shifted away regardless. Alliance is in a pretty peculiar position right here. They burned a lot of their stuff to get that first catch on a ball, so they don't really want to show into the mid lane now.
Ping in the top lane from Balls. He says Wicked is MIA at this point. doesn't look like they really have the flank to get in on anything here. Good wards coming in from Cloud9 and both Alliance to try and make these work. Nobody really coming up with too big of an upper hand. The gold from the objectives in favor of Cloud9. And these lanes have opened up quite quick. We're getting a lot of roaming here.
Whoa. There we go.
Yep.
There's just about
Recall is not the same for a home
movements.
guard Rammus than it is for anyone else because he gets back to mid lane in about 5 seconds after recalling. He just bought a ward. Like, that was his only reason for recalling, but he filled up his health and mana, and then he just goes and takes blue buff.
Funnily enough, I wasn't all that far away with 4,500 movements. Well, reaching 1,000 there, speeding out of base. Froggen will be getting his blue buff gifted over to him. Has a lead in the lane in terms of CS, but of course, High does have that kill with Zillion. Fiends will be coming up first for High, along with his tier, of course, getting stacking. So building up those minor items. Similar scenario for Balls in the top lane tier, and has got the blasting one, so Rod of Ages will be coming into play soon. Trinity Force for Wicked, though, is a big item.
pretty crazy how much Balls is trying to avoid this top lane. You do not want to give Wicked any bigger of an upper hand other than CS at this point, but Balls will fall farther and farther behind as this happens.
And that's the big reason Balls is avoiding Wicked in that top lane. I mean, Wicked is, unless he's willing to push into the second tier turret,
Right.
Not going to pull much pressure up. He should probably be pushing this as quickly as possible. However, he actually doesn't know where Balls is. He's hoping that he's denying him CS up there. Balls is just willingly denying himself. It's a potential danger, actually, because he is still going to fall behind in experience and gold. He's now 2 levels behind Wicked.
Oh, Shook might be in a little bit of trouble here. Although, there is a ward down. So they spot Cloud9 coming in. Cloud9 do get that vision down. And know that they need to be careful now on this bottom side of the map. There is the binding actually giving the position away. Shook says, you know what? I'm just leaving you guys to this one. See if they can actually hold. Looks like they will because Sneaky and Lemonation not going to push any further.
A lot of forward wards put in this one by Cloud9. Let's see how they act on these instead of letting this get swept out. Meteos actually is going to just protect High as he backs in the mid lane. Shook standing on a ward as he throws one down. Have not seen gank coming from him too much. On the Rammus, it's been more of just in and out, put some wards down, not too many ganks yet.
Yeah, and with the Sightstone now, he's really heavily involved in vision control. Was not able to impact his lanes that greatly. However, the one lane he did impact was impacted in a very huge way. It's the largest discrepancy we see in this game. And you can tell Balls has to 100% avoid Wicked. It's a huge amount of map pressure lost. And if Wicked can make it down to this next Dragon fight, it will be very interesting.
Well, they are starting to move in. More wards cleared out by Meteos and Lemonation. Bottom lane is pushed up, though, in favor of Alliance, so they can choose to get a bit of free turret damage. Wait until this next dragon comes in. There is a nice little binding through into the brush, which will catch directly onto Shook. Alliance deciding actually not to follow through on towards the turret. They do, however, have vision of Meteors coming down.
Wicked throwing in a Giant's Belt after the Triforce. Both him and Tabs now have that finished up. So this Dragon in 30 seconds. Some nice item spikes there. Sneaky getting his Infinity Edge in as well. So a lot of lanes staying close, barring that top lane. Oh, good trade back and forth. Froggen right even.
And Wicked is just so strong right now. Even if there's evenness on other roles,
Yeah.
he could completely turn the tides of this fight. It's all eyes on Wicked for Cloud9. How can they avoid this massive Aurelia that actually has a lot of health with the Giant's Belt and be able to continue to contest objectives?
Well, we're going to find out here as that dragon does come live. Wicked actually headed to push the bottom lane out. We are seeing blue buff about to be given over to High to aid him in this next fight. Alliance certainly have positioning on that one, and Lemonation there stood right on top of a ward will allow them to see that binding coming through. The charm almost landing there, but didn't actually connect. An Alliance, they're moving for this bottom tower.
Even on the bottom side of the map, Wicked getting free farm. Now Shook and Nif joining him. Froggen will be there as well. How are Cloud9 going to react? A nice minion wave in mid will be able to split open the map for them.
Cloud9 made some pretty critical mistakes in their loss to White Shield yesterday, where they had a mid-game disadvantage, but they continually forced fights. Right now, their mid-game disadvantage is against the Aurelia, so everywhere Aurelia goes, they're trying to avoid. However, Alliance did beat them to the spot.
And then they're leaving Balls, the guy who has been behind back to guard. This is not going to work out too well. An inhibitor turret, sub 20 minutes coming in for Alliance. This is a stark difference from
Why stop there? There's only 3 people from Cloud9 defending.
This is an interesting one indeed, as they are going to go towards Bolt, takes all the damage, flashes away. He's got the Chrono Shift on. Looks like Cloud9 might be able to hold them off. Shook actually getting the heal there to keep him alive. It didn't quite finish off that inhibitor, but they may be headed off here as they try to escape.
Hopefully buying some more time for themselves. Froggen flashing already with the Spirit Rush down. That's 1 to 2 lockdowns. They could be cleaning this one up now. That's going to be Sneaky picking one up. No. Oh, yes, he does. He does grab one. Transcendent Blades coming off from the side here from Wicked. He throws a few out for the fans. He does get a kill for himself.
What a strange series of events there. Cloud9 was opting into the trade, and then they kept 2 people around for a little bit longer. Now they think they have a free dragon, but not everything in League is free.
No.
Big grouping.
Here comes Shook as well. They're going to go in towards high. He's got his ultimate back up though. Bomb on Wicked said Meteor's actually going very, very low, but where's the focus here? Everyone's low, but no one's down. Sneaky finishes off Nif. Shook's going to fall low. We'll be able to roll away. Wicked went super low as well, and you have to feel that Alliance could have done better with that scenario.
Something you have to keep in mind when you're running Alistar and Rammus is it is an incredibly low damage combo. So that's why that fight didn't go this way. We'll take a look at this fight once again though. Black Shield, super critical. Shook was trying to flash for the taunt, could not get it there. And honestly, Chrono Shift against a low damage team is remarkably efficient. Despite it being a 3v4, they could actually hold off Alliance. Alliance put a lot of investment into the inhibitor turrets, which is one of the reasons they didn't win that fight as well. Obviously the collapse here, Froggen flashed away early. Meteos ulted on for the secure. He had to flash out of his own creation because he was going to take too much damage, and Cloud9 was able to pick up a few kills. If they aren't punished for that open inhibitor, it was a great trade for Cloud9. Alliance is going to continue to trade turrets though, and it may be a bit too much to bear for Cloud9.
A bit too much indeed. You see Lemon Nation saying we need more damage. Needlessly large rod after his Sightstone as well. They are trying to be able to put out the power in these fights that alone Wicked is pretty much bringing right now, and the rest of the team is just going to scale up later. Tabs waiting to get to that point. These guys are going to be ferocious come another 10 minutes. Cloud9 really does not have an answer just yet. Lots of pink wards. That's really all they got to defend with.
Yeah, but 6 turrets means their map pressure is slim to nil. Cloud9, with the Zillion, wants to accelerate this game, but at the moment, because they are down 6 turrets, they're pushed into a different mindset. Meteos is caught.
And he's dead. Tabs will pick up that kill, and a nice little bait using that pink ward to try and lure them in. Cloud9 thinking, okay, we can get rid of that ward. Actually, there is High going to get caught out. They leave him up here. Wicked's going to keep chasing him down. There is Rammus rolling on forward. Decides not to go too far, though.
And that was just a nice catch by Alliance. It's what they're going to continue to try and do. Ward control in the jungle of Cloud9 and get the small pickoffs. They're very careful about that Chrono Shift from High, and Lemon Nation is also being very careful about his Black Shield placement.
Eagle Eye Dark Bindings to come out, saving his life there along with the Black Shield. Sneaky and Balls trying to be a 2-man team as they push down the mid lane. Those turrets they have already dropped though, but they can't afford to spread themselves thin right now. It's going to be the buddy system as they have to clear out some of these wards. Alliance is left behind. Slow play right now from Cloud9, but not the case for Alliance. An entire split, an entire year for them to really produce this type of team, and it was shaky at the start coming into Worlds, but definitely showing up.
Right, when we look at Alliance's story as a team, they had a very slow start. It took them a while to learn how to play as a team, but also to play against their opposition. They built the team, though, to succeed at Worlds. Yeah. Now, at Worlds, you don't exactly have very long to adapt to your opponents. Their first round in this group,
not a luxury.
They went 1 and 2. They have to adapt now if they want to make it out of the group and find victory where they previously found defeat.
Well, let's see here. Froggen trying to get the cash on to hide inside of his own jungle once again. Didn't quite get in there. Meanwhile, Sneaky quite happy to just push through. He's going to be taking the 4th turret of the game for Cloud9. And we're 23.5 minutes into this one, and 10 turrets are down already.
Well, there are a few turret kills in the last game, so maybe they're taking cues. We'll see if this one ends a little bit faster than Fnatic versus OMG. It's just as close here, though, in the mid-game. I do wonder how Alliance is going to find the right type of picks, because the Chrono Shift and the Black Shield are big blockers for Alliance trying to find the right kills.
This is Scepter coming in from Froggen. Interesting. Usually see the Deathfire Grasp trying to pop a Zillion, trying to pop the support, but he goes for the magic resistance plus that magic shred. So,
well, they're really trying to diminish the damage from High and Balls at the moment. They don't think Sneaky's at a point where he is an adequate threat yet. Plus, they have Rammus, who can just be the one guy to taunt him and take all the Lucian fire, while then they just have to worry about the magic damage.
And with that DFG, High's just going to ulti whoever gets hit with a DFG as well. So we'll see how this one all works out. Waiting for Nif to maybe get started here, because once he lands a decent pulverize, there's good follow-up with the charms coming through. Actually, Cloud9 here, headed straight down this middle lane. They want to go on this inventory.
Lemonation's really low on mana for Cloud9 to be posturing so aggressively. That's what Nif sees. He goes.
the double headbutt pulverized from Nif with his ult on. They're on to Taz, but it's only Meteos. Ball's trying to focus that. Chrono Shift's going to come back up for him, but they're standing in Tremors right now, and it's a lockdown kill onto Taz. The Cathian surprise to deliver out the damage does not help, but Balls is on the run here. Alliance coming up on the fight overall. Actually, a 2-2 across the board.
The magic of Zillion. It seems like they would actually have an edge, but they have to kill Balls twice. Tabs and Nif actually get singled out by Sneaky on the other side of the fight, while Wicked was diving Balls really aggressively, and somehow Cloud9 gets away with pushing a little bit deep.
Looks like Froggen might be trying to go up this mid lane here. Cloud9 actually full on recall from those 3 remaining men that didn't go down during that last fight. For Froggen though, it was just a case of clearing out on that middle lane. So let's watch this one again. Started off with Alliance getting bound up there by Elimination.
Yeah, obviously though, Nif is a little bit too strong to focus, and Wicked, sorry, I was wrong, was looking at Sneaky, but then decided to kill High. I'm trying to figure out exactly what happened to Kog'Maw. Meteos just killed him, straight up, and then Nif's ultimate ran out, so Sneaky was able to get the secure there. A very spread out and somewhat chaotic fight, which we will probably see a fair bit of, considering all the single target damage on Alliance. They will need fights to be a little bit spread out to avoid dying to what will be a lot of AoE from Cloud9.
And I'm interested to know what the comms are for Cloud9 right now. Usually only High in the team fights, but he's got so many different things to think about with being a Zillion. Who's he speeding up, slowing down? Who's he throwing Chrono Shift on? Is it really him still calling the shots in these fights? 5 pick wards down the line as Cloud9 is trying to stave off the push that Cloud9, or Alliance, just looking at what's on the screen and saying it, Alliance is pushing down. And we'll see if they can do that.
Well, if there's one thing I always want out of a Zillion who's on my team, Riv, it's someone who's willing to say, I got you. And since I speak so much on communication and the team has so much trust in him, it makes sense that he will be able to deliver those ultimates on the right targets to prompt aggression. But it's still going to be difficult with all those charms flying around.
Alliance again pushing up that bottom wave, cause an open inhibitor.
Cloud9 doesn't have vision control over this dragon. It's real dangerous.
Whoa! Meteos going right between them. The Elimination going to get taunted in, but who are they going to go for? Wicked diving in the back. It's a good ultimate from Elimination, and the Culling is going to go through them. Ball's got the ultimate on him from Zillion. Elimination still alive here. Finally a flash in from Tabs. They've managed to lock up Balls, but he gets the kill onto Froggen. Shook will actually go down as well. Balls are still going.
Are you kidding me?
And the bomb will get another one. Triple kill for Tabs on the other side, though. It's a 4 for 4.
How?
Miraculously is the only word I can say right there. Alliance's low damage as a team really cost them there because the revived Balls cleaned up and they were never quite able to finish off High despite
Where did this go?
Meteos burning everything for vision. The fight starts, obviously, and now Cloud9 gets a decent amount of AoE down, but really, they were caught with their pants down when they checked this spot right here. Meteos dies pretty much without doing anything. Obviously, Tabs is wrecking face in the back of the fight, but he's the only one really able to wreck a large amount of face. Froggen gets killed by the Balls that he revives, and then it's just a comedy of no damage right here. Rammus, Alistar, they can't do anything. Tabs isn't at range yet until the last hit, and Rise plus Zillion take out a bunch.
Balls has been the focus of that Chrono Shift just about every single time. You can see him bringing out a blue elixir for this one. Cloud9's definitely want to get back to the fight. The teleport into the Death Rush. Culling coming out from Sneaky. Meteos missing the flag and drag on that one, and that is the re-engage A nice orb of deception through the whole team from Froggen, but he's locked up right now. Can't deliver any more damage. They pick up one. They pick up two. They're on the balls now with the Pulverize, and they are going to get 4 kills for themselves. They're not going to lose any this time, though.
Finally, Alliance finds the fight they needed, and it's because they continually pushed the envelope. At that point, Meteos could not find the right engage. The triple kill that Tabs pulled off in that last fight gave him some powerful items, and they really just, that time, used the power of Wicked for a fight victory. Shook wanted some help. They're going for Baron.
Speeding on again out of the base, and Hyde just going to recall you, spend up what he's got, heal back up, but Alliance are going to pick up the Baron. And a crazy little fight, and this time they did it right. They waited for the chrono shift to come down, stepped back and said, okay, let that run out, and then we can fight him once again.
Yeah, now with the Baron, they may be able to go and get the Dragon. They're just going to keep the pedal to the metal here. They were criticized heavily for not being able to capitalize on an advantage against White Shield, and also the entire game against Cloud9 because they had a slight disadvantage. Let's see if they keep pushing the envelope here. Wicked, though, in the wrong lane without teleport. Cloud9 might be able to take a Dragon, but it will cost them turrets.
Cost them turrets, indeed. They're getting everything that puts gold in their pocket, but gold items are not working. We see the Zanya's up from Lemon Nation now, providing a little bit of help in the last fight, but with all those things being down, like you said, Joe, the chrono shift, that Zanya's down. Those are the things Cloud9 needs to win these fights all the time. With Alliance just being ahead makes it that much easier. See this again.
Yeah, it was just a really poor engage by Cloud9 and a great disengage by Alliance. Meteos uses this flag combo for nothing, and Balls teleports in to a disengaged Alliance. At this point, Lemonation's like, fine, I'll do it, but the rest of the team had already used all of their initial initiation. He gets a stun off, there's no follow-up. In the back line is a whole bunch of pressure from Alliance, what is becoming a very strong tank line of Wicked plus Shook, Aurelia, and Rammus is a little bit too much to deal with for Cloud9. Sneaky can't clear out those champions just because of base stats, and they've stacked enough MR that the Balls, Rise, and the High Zillion can't get it done.
Well, Froggen here, just getting himself that blue buff. There's a lot of wards down here for Alliance, and that's another point that they've been criticized on. Their vision, if you think back to that White Shield game,
oh man,
you can argue that they walked far too often into darker areas of the map where they just not got the wards down. Cost them the game in the end, but this time looking to not make that same mistake twice.
Yeah, Ruby Sightstone and a Spirit of the Ancient Golem by Shook. Even if his wards get cleared out, he's going to have a whole bunch more to place down. Ward clearing has been better this game for Alliance as well. You can see pink wards already down on the map, but pink wards still in their inventory, something that the best teams so far at the World Championship have kind of been doing. Alliance was actually second worst in the group as far as wards killed going into this game. I expect they're going to move up a little bit in the rankings after this one.
Yeah, just a tad. It'll be interesting to see those stats at the end of this one, which might be quite soon with ferocity Alliance has put into this game. We will see High getting caught up there. May not have time. Even chrono shift. He wishes he could turn back time on that one. The inhibitor is going to be locked down here for Alliance. 32 minutes, and they are pressuring the base quite hard of Cloud9.
Cloud9 so reliant on Black Shield and reaction time, but with cooldown boots, once Shook gets that flash taunt, it's 2.5 seconds of not being able to cast that chrono shift, and they burst him down faster.
Second inhibitor going to be pressure. There's Froggen moving in. The charm did in fact go wide there, but Alliance come into the base with that Baron buff on, get 2 inhibitors down. Now they're just going to go straight to that top lane and start pushing that one through. With, you know, Alliance's composition here, they're quite happy to go under the towers, and they can blast you from range, especially when you've got the likes of Cogmore in there.
It's definitely a change. Speaking with Cloud9 and watching their games, it was slow, slow, slow. Even against Kaboom, they said, we didn't want to make mistakes. Nothing silly, we'll play it slow. Alliance is attacking that right now, and the slow is not working for Cloud9.
No, and Cloud9 is out of time as well. They didn't necessarily want to play this game slow. That's why we saw so many mid-game skirmishes.
Yeah.
And just flat-out giant team fights, too. But they lost the fights. Alliance was the victor, and they, with 2 inhibitors down now, are in prime position to end this game in the next few minutes. Let's take a look at this last flash taunt. It's just something High didn't expect.
Well, blam.
Very last edge of that taunt. And yeah, there's nothing High could do since the Black Shield was actually on Lemon Nation instead of High.
Yeah, not quick enough to get the Chrono Shift onto himself there either. I mean, there was a split second where he wasn't locked up there,
but at the same time, you don't want to just use a Chrono Shift as soon as someone flashes on you. You need to use it right before someone dies. Hai can't be in the front line. Obviously, hindsight is 20/20, but Shook had the faster fingers there.
So Alliance finally got this wave pushed up on the top side of the map. Shook actually just going to walk on straight into that minion wave, and actually should get behind or away from his minions there to stop that bomb just wiping out that entire wave. Without that, I think Alliance still going to be playing this one cautiously.
And I will say, just a great job of Alliance to stack magic resistance. They've been playing these fights perfectly, almost ignoring the magic damage threats because of their items and being able to get sneaky in positions where he can't deal that much damage. It's worked wonderfully.
Wow. That graph really telling the story of this game. Very, very close most of the time. Being in Cloud9's favor as well, that gold lead, but big swing coming in for Alliance as Nif just threading those super minions up through the middle lane. They've actually got super minions going on to the Nexus turrets. They might have to give this one up.
Wicked with the Guardian Angel, not afraid to go in on this one. Nice Soul Shackle from Lemon with the Zanya's down, but he will follow quickly going down. Meteos is going to be the next one hit up. Could this be game already? The minion waves are hugely pouring in for Alliance right now. They could look to seal the deal. Ball's one of the last ones standing. Sneaky on the outside is just charmed right in, and it was a beauty. One more shot coming in from Tabs, does not take down Hai, and it looks like they are ready to seal the deal.
Well, the minions are already killing it for them. Their first Nexus turret went down without any problem, and Alliance going to go for one last kill here onto Hai to give them the ace, and will be able to finish off the game, tying them one apiece now with Cloud9, which means this group could be going tiebreakers.
Wide open.
It was a very impressive performance there by Alliance. They played crisply, and they also played quick. All things that were lacking from their defeats thus far in the group stage. Smart itemization, they worked around the pick and ban well with some unconventional things getting through. They capitalized on the Alistair, they withstood the Zillion, and they came out victorious.
And cut completely in half, a 35-minute game instead of a 70-minute one. Much more definitive here coming out from Alliance. And wow, Shook bringing out the Rammus, getting in the heads of Cloud9 as much as they could. And it seems like, as Cloud9 said, they were a bit shaky coming into these pick bans. They wanted to be stronger. With Meteos going on to Jarvan, it did not seem like the engagements they wanted when they wanted the fights.
No, and that's the thing. If you put a lot of focus in bans onto Shook, you take away Kha'Zix, you take away Lee Sin. With those, especially the Kha'Zix, do you also hinder yourself?
Exactly.
It's a good question.
Meteos hasn't played much Jarvan in competitive play. It wasn't a terrible pick or a bad pick by any means, but he did not